Well, welcome everybody to the third out of 4 weeks of our abundance series that we're doing. And so in that abundance series, we are talking about how to increase our prosperity or abundance, different ways to do that. And so the first week, we actually talked about the very foundation for experiencing abundance in our lives, for experiencing an abundance of good and living an abundant life, which is to know that we live in a universe of infinite potentiality. To know that we live in a universe that is founded on boundless good. And that nature, that infinite potentiality, is the very essence of our own individual lives, because it is the very essence of life itself. And so last week we talked about increasing our experience of abundance or of good by sharing our own unique gifts and talents, the things that we are naturally good at, the things that just come to us naturally. And that when we pour ourselves out as a blessing to this world, we open a way for greater good to flow into our lives. And so today, we are talking about increasing our experience of abundance, increasing our experience of good and of plenty when we give way to the flow of the universe through us and out into the world. And so it's a little bit different than sharing our gifts and our talents, because what I'm talking about is giving way to that absolute presence, giving away to the abundance and the energy of the universe, giving way to the love and the creativity and the wisdom and the good that all come out of that divine presence. We give it from within ourselves out and into the world. And so that good expresses many different ways. That energy of the divine expresses in many different ways. One of those ways that it expresses as that divine energy of love. And that divine energy of love expresses as kindness, and as compassion, and as having empathy for other people. It expresses itself as a divine wisdom, and that divine wisdom expresses itself as understanding, and as creative solutions and ideas for problems that we need to solve. It shows up as a willingness and an ability to understand another person's perspective. And that financial abundance of the universe expresses through us as we share our good in a way that supports the expansion of good in this world, in a way that supports and assists. And so in his book, A Daily Dose of Sanity, Alan Cohen has a great little example that he talks about that I think portrays this very well. He says, in olden times, tall buildings were adorned with statue heads of gargoyles at the edge of their roofs. When the rain came, the water would rush down the roof into the gutters and then pour out of the gargoyles' mouths. If you did not know better when you looked up from the street, you would think that the gargoyle was producing the rain. But it was not. The rain was coming from the sky. And the statue's mouth was the last orifice through which the rain was channeled before it was delivered to earth. So it is with your good. You may believe that a particular person, home, or job is your source of good, but each of these entities is simply a gargoyle. A gargoyle through which a far broader universal source pours. If the rain ceases to flow through one channel, there are many others through which it may arrive. Do not confuse the delivery service with the source. The source of your good is an infinite universal supply. Remember how vast is the source of rain, and you will recognize how vast is your well-being. So we mistakenly think that our financial good comes to us through our jobs or through our investments. We mistakenly think that the love comes to us through our partners or our loved ones or the people that we care about and our friends. But the truth is, they are only gargoyles. They are only avenues through which that love or that financial abundance comes to us in the world. They are gargoyles for the creative force of this universe. They are avenues through which the love, intelligence of this universe might flow. They are avenues for that opulence of good to flow through them and into our lives. They aren't the source of that good. They are an avenue for that good. And so when we share also from that boundless good of the universe, we also become gargoyles as we share our love and our creativity and our kindness and our compassion and our financial good. We become gargoyles into the world also. And so in the book that we're using for this abundance program, which is In the Flow of Life by Eric Butterworth, he says, true giving is not something you do to or for someone, but it is your consent to let the flow of God flow through you to someone. Whereas the emphasis is usually on what you give to, the most important thing is what you give from. And so we give from the fullness of life. We give from the fullness of ourselves. We give from that source of infinite potential that is the very center of our being and the center of our lives. In our giving, we open that flow so that it doesn't get clogged up. Meister Eckhart, who was a 14th century mystic, said, God does not ask anything else that you let yourself go and let God be God in you. When we share of that universal good, when we become that avenue, we are letting God be God in us. And so all of this giving in order to receive even more is based on the idea that the universe abhors a void. It's based on the idea that as we give, we create this void. We create an opening. Through our giving, we create this opening so more may flow into us and into our lives. Just like that gargoyle spits out that water so more water may flow into it. It's the same with us. And so I know that every single one of us in this room, we want to experience the good, that which we call the good in life. We want to experience harmony in our relationships, and we want to experience plenty of love, and we want to experience financial abundance, and we want to experience health, and we want to have friends. We want to have a fullness, the fullness of life, and the fullness of what feels like plenty, and what feels like enough, and what feels satisfying to us. We all want to experience that. All those things are what we call the good. The problem is so often we think that we must get before we can give. We think, I will be nice to that person who is nice to me first. But the person who isn't nice to me, nope. The person who is rude or inconsiderate or ignores me, I am not going to be nice to them. We even cross our arms and close ourselves off. Do you see how that's a closed off position? We say, I will talk with the people who talk to me, or I will say hi to the people that say hi to me. But that person at work that never says hi to me when I come to work, I am not going to say hi to her. I will reciprocate, but I'm not going to do it first. Can you relate? We say things or think things like, I would be happy to take my friend out to dinner who reciprocates, but that friend who never offers to take me out, I'm not going to offer to take that person out. Or we say, after I get that raise, then I will give to that organization that's doing such good work that I believe in. We think that we have to get before we can get it. The title of my talk today is It's Time for Bifocals. And what I'm talking about is when we think that the world will deliver the good to us that we desire without giving it out in return, it's like looking through the wrong part of your glasses. It's like looking through the reading portion when you're looking at the landscape and everything kind of seems askew and a little bit distorted, and it's kind of confusing because we're looking at it wrong, because we're looking through the wrong lens. We find the love in here. We find the kindness in here. We find the creativity and the guidance and the wisdom inside of us, and then we bring it forward into the world. We don't find it out there. It lives inside here. And when we share of that good, it's like opening the faucet. When the faucet is open, it's open to that reservoir of water that's behind it. When we give, it's like opening that faucet. So we open to the reservoir of infinite potential and boundless good that is behind it. In our open-hearted giving, we place ourselves in the flow of life. You know what? There's magic in generosity. Because in our generosity, we open ourselves. Each one of you are being called to be an avenue through which God might express in this world. You are being called to be that avenue. And when you answer that call, you place yourself in the flow of an ever-increasing good into your life. It's a law of circulation. And the law of circulation begins with you. And so Eric Butterworth also says in this book, there's an old axiom. When things get tight, something's got to give. This does not mean something over which you have no control. It means you. You must give by giving way to the flow. Catherine Ponder, who has written 18 books on prosperity. She was an early guru in the prosperity movement. She was a unity minister. She says, when we think we don't have enough to give is precisely when we need to give. And you want to know why? Because in our not giving, we are holding tightly to the belief and to the emotions around that belief that there is not enough. And the law says, okay, not enough, and reflects that back into our lives. It's because in our not giving, we're holding on to that belief and creating that energy, atmosphere, and vibration inside of ourselves. That belief and that emotion constricts the flow of good flowing into our lives. It closes off the natural flow of life expressing itself. We hold tightly and we choke it off. Nope, I'm not going to be nice to her. I have a friend who years and years ago, her husband had throat cancer and had treatments, radiation on his throat. And as a result of that, he has a hard time swallowing and getting food down. And he has had to numerous times have his throat stretched because it's tight and nothing else can get in when it's tight. Nothing else can get in when it's tight. And so one of the things that you can do if you are experiencing tightness in your life, if you are experiencing lack or fear of lack, is to stretch yourself a little bit. That means you can begin by giving in an area that feels really comfortable to you. A place in your life where you already feel full. Give your love and your time and your attention to something. Go volunteer at the animal shelter. Or come volunteer with us at Food Finders, where we pack lunches for people who are in need to take home on the weekends. Bring socks. We're doing a Sock It To 'Em sock drive today. Give socks to the homeless. Hold a door for someone and be generous. Say hi to everyone. Open that flow. You know, one of the things that we do on a semi-regular basis is we go to the Dollar Tree. Do you know that you can buy like 6 packs of toothbrushes for $1 and tubes of toothpaste for $1? And we go and we spend like $10 or $20 and we give it to the shelter. In fact, Peggy Toole goes to Long Beach Mission on a regular basis. We buy that stuff and give it to Peggy to take to the mission. How easy is that? You know, I've told you before that we have an orange tree in our backyard, and one of the things that we do is pick oranges and put them in a box and carry them with us in the car, and we stop and give them to people. Give them to the postal carrier that's walking down the street, some oranges, and stop at the bus stop and give some oranges to the people sitting on the bus stop and the homeless person. It is so much fun. People get so happy about it. Something else that I've been doing on a semi-regular basis that is really fun is tipping the person in the drive-thru. You give that person $5 or $10 or $20, you have made their day. You can't believe how excited they get. It's so fun just to be this conduit for giving and sharing of the abundance of life in this world. And so if money is the thing that is challenging to you, and money feels tight, give at the level you're comfortable. And then give a little bit more. Stretch yourself a little bit. Because if you don't, that fear clogs the flow. When you think you have little to give and you hold on to that, you can't move through that fear. When you stretch yourself a little bit and give more than what you think you're comfortable doing, what happens is you move through the fear because you get to the other side of it and discover there was nothing to fear in the first place. It's that false evidence appearing real. There's nothing to fear. That's what you'll discover. Prove me now, said the Lord Faucet, I will not allow it. You have to prove it to yourself. You can't just talk about it. You have to actually do something so you can prove it to yourself. And so in the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of this philosophy, says, it is a great mistake to say, take what you wish, for you can have anything you like. We do not take what we wish, but we do attract to ourselves that which is like our thought. We need not labor under the delusion that all we have to do is say that everything is ours. This is true in capital R reality, but in fact it is only as true as we make it. We provide the mold for the creative law, and unless the mold we provided increases, substance cannot increase in us. We create the mold through our belief system, through our focus and our feelings. And so earlier I said to you, I read one of the quotes that it's not as important what you give to as what you give from. Giving from the fullness of life and the fullness of yourself. And that is absolutely true. And it's still important what you give to. Because, I mean, seriously, would you give your money to the Russian government? No, because that's not what I want to support and what I want to keep alive. Money is energy. Just like love is energy, and just like kindness is energy, and just like sharing our gifts and our talents are energy. It's energy. And what we give our energy to is what we keep alive. What we give our energy to is what we increase. And so we give our time and our talent and our money to what we believe, to what's important to us, to what we want to feed into, to what we hold as valuable. And so I'm not talking about trading. Trading is going shopping. Paying your bills is trading. Going out to dinner is trading. I'm talking about giving in order to increase something that you need, in order to bring greater giving. I'm talking about giving as a way to magnify. And so I support lots of things. I give regularly to Habitat for Humanity and to Greenpeace and to Women for Women International that gives loans to women in developing countries so that they can start businesses. And I give to organizations that support reproductive freedom because I think that's really important. And it feels like an honor to be able to support those organizations. I feel blessed to be in a place where I can actually do it. And I support this church because I believe in what we're doing. I believe in our mission statement, and I want to support that. I want to grow that. I believe in this philosophy. And I support this organization because it has made such a difference in my life. My life is so different than when I started this path. And not just because it's made a difference in my life, but I want that to be available to other people so that it can make a difference in their life as well. And I remember I was probably 30 years old when I had that realization that I wanted this to be available to other people, that it wasn't just about me, that it was about we. And I remember as I realized that, the change that happened inside of me as I started giving to my church, whether I was there or not. Because it wasn't trading. It wasn't about what I was giving. It was about supporting something that I wanted to see grow and flourish, and I wanted it to be available for other people, what I had gotten out of it. And so today, I write a check every single week for $100, whether I'm here or not. And you know what? I didn't start out at $100. When I started this church, I started out at $45. And my giving has increased here, and my giving has increased everywhere in this world. And you know what else? My blessings have increased. And I feel richer and fuller and more satisfied than I have before. And so I'm talking about two different principles. The first principle is giving in order to give way to the flow of that universal good so that in return we receive more. Giving way to the nature of life, that opulence, so that we open ourselves to great power. That's the law of circulation. And the second thing that I'm talking about, giving our energy, our time and our talent and our treasure and our love to that which we want to see increase. That's the law of increase. And so one of my favorite things out of the reading in that book, In the Flow of Life this week, was Eric Butterworth says, ask not what's in it for me, but ask what's in me for the world. I love that. What's in me for the world? And so my invitation to you this week is, if you want to experience an increase of something, of anything, give that thing. That will open you to stretch yourself just a little further. And in that stretching, you will discover that you cannot outgive life. You cannot outgive God. You cannot outgive that infinite potential. And give to what's important to you. Give to where your heart calls you to. Give to what you want to see increasing. And give from that wellspring within you. As we give from our heart, as we give from the fullness of life, we give way to that flow, for it is then that we have stepped into this circle where giving and receiving are just 2 points on it. And so blessings to all of you on this path of unfolding your own self, this path of discovering who and what you are, this path of discovering this magnificent life that you are living and that is living inside of you, and blessings on this path of self-discovery. And so I'd like to give you a moment if you would like to take any notes. There's a white paper in your insert that says notes on one side, reflections and intentions and goals on the other side. I'd like to give you a few minutes in case you'd like to write something down. And so I invite you to wrap up that thought. And to join me in an affirmative prayer. Oh, and so how wonderful it is to be in recognition of that omnipresence of Spirit, that one and only presence and power that fills all of time and all of space with its beings, that one infinite presence that we each, every single one of us, live and breathe and have our beings within, that one life, that one good, that one boundless potential, that is the very nature of life itself, that lives within us, that fills our lives, that fills every moment. So I recognize that we walk in this presence and with this presence, and that presence lives within us, that it is the thing that guides us and directs us into the perfect expression and into the places of perfect receiving. That it is that opulence, that boundlessness that fills our lives. And today, as we turn to that one, as we recognize that it is the very foundation of life itself in its boundless good, as we recognize that we are one with it, and as we open ourselves in giving, we have opened ourselves so that that presence might pour out a blessing into our lives so large that we receive it with overflowing gratitude. And so I know that we are each led and that we are each guided to these perfect avenues of expression, into these perfect places and ways of opulence and of good. For this is the nature of life, and that divine presence has no other desire than to express itself. And so today, we open ourselves to that expression of good, of love and of friends and of financial prosperity and of health and of wholeness, of intelligence, of everything that we need, peace and harmony. For it is that one that expresses as all of these things in our lives. And so today we accept this blessing and we step into this blessing and we step into this life as a conduit through which it might flow. How blessed each one of us is. And so I say thank you for God for this and for so much more. And I release this prayer in absolute gratitude, knowing that it is done simply because it has always been the truth, and because today we have said yes to it. And so I release this prayer, and I say, and so it is.